Hi, I'm Erica and I live fully off-grid with my husband and 2 kids. Today I'm going to take you with me as I make and can applesauce for the first time. But first we'll get some orange slices dehydrating. I do this every year when I'm decorating for Christmas. Slice up some navel oranges, dehydrate them, and use them all over the place for decorations. And I've discovered that they actually do last year to year as well. So the ones that I saved from last year, we made into a garland, we hung on this railing here, and we used them all up before we got our tree. So I needed to just cut up a couple more so we had some slices to hang on our Christmas tree. It's really easy, but I do have a post about it on my website, thehomeintent.com, that I'll link below. But really, you just slice them about 1/4 inch thick and dehydrate them at 135 degrees Fahrenheit until they're crispy. I got a couple of boxes of apples from my grandma. She has an apple tree in her yard. And I don't know what kind of apples these are, but we've always made them into applesauce. My grandma did for years and years. And so I made a couple of crisps that I froze in the freezer. And then after that, I knew I had to do something with the apples because they wouldn't have lasted the whole winter in our basement and we didn't want to waste them. So I decided to make them all into applesauce. I estimated the weight that I had just by weighing enough apples to get a pound and then counting out the apples. So I figured out I had about 18 pounds of apples. And we're using this really handy little device. It's a peeler, a corer, and a slicer. And we decided not to peel these because they're just for my grandma's yard. She doesn't spray any nasty chemicals on them or anything, so we wanted to retain as many of the nutrients in the peel as we could. So we kept the peel on and we used this handy gadget to core and slice them for us. Way faster than doing it by hand. Takes a little bit of getting used to, but once you get the hang of it, it's totally worth it. We got this at Bed Bath & Beyond here in Canada many years ago, but I'll try to find something similar to link below if you're interested. After peeling and slicing each apple, I just kind of pulled it apart to take a brief look at the flesh inside because some of them did have bruising, some had, you could see little paths that a bug had made, so we wanted to just cut those parts out and use the rest of the apple. We added a little bit of water and lemon juice to the bottom of the pot, and my daughter stirred the apples around every few minutes just to prevent them from browning before we cooked them. Some recipes I read recommended this, some said it didn't matter, so we just did it. I don't think that would cause any problem with the applesauce. I don't know, let me know. Is that even going to make a difference when you're making applesauce? Should I use lemon juice or does it have no effect? Let me know in the comments. Some of the apples were so soft that as I cored them, they just kind of fell apart. And so for those ones, of course, I had to use a knife to take out the core and cut them into pieces, but that wasn't too many of them. I've canned a few times before with my sister-in-law, but never by myself. So this was my first time doing any sort of canning project on my own, and it did take all day. But I know that as I practice and do it more, it's going to become a lot more efficient. Things will become second nature, and I will enjoy it more because I'll know what I'm doing. Once the pot was full, I put them over low heat on the stove and covered the pot and just let them simmer away until they became mushy and falling apart. It was a really quiet, beautiful, snowy day on the acreage, and so we just enjoyed these views as we worked on the applesauce throughout the day. I filled up my 2 largest pots with apples, cooked them, and needed to do a 3rd batch. So once these cooked down, I moved them from this red pot into the beige pot to keep warm in there while I cooked my 3rd batch in the red pot. Now I'm preparing my jars for canning. I had a lot of jars in the basement that the previous owners left here. We moved here in the spring of 2024, by the way. And so those have just been down there and they're nasty and dirty. So I'm giving those a good cleaning, and then I will sterilize the jars in the canner before I fill them with applesauce and can them. My 1-year-old has taken a serious interest in being at the sink with me when I'm doing dishes. Every day after supper, we finish and she runs over to the sink and tries to communicate to me that she needs me to move the 5-gallon pail we have in the kitchen over to the sink so she can stand on it and play in the water. And it's pretty cute and fun. Next, I set out a dish towel just as a place to put my finished canned applesauce and let it rest. And then I'm getting out the canning lids, putting them in a small pot with some water, and I will boil those to sterilize them. Now I'm putting all my jars into my giant canning pot, and then I'll fill it all up with water, including inside the jars, bring it to a boil, and then let it boil until it's all sterilized. And I can't remember right now how long that is. Is it 10 minutes or 20 minutes? Let me know in the comments. So now my apples are breaking down. They're looking great. And so I am going to use an immersion blender to blend up my applesauce. This is not the way to do it if you want the smoothest possible sauce with no trace of a peel or anything, but I don't mind it not being perfect, and this seemed like by far the easiest and quickest way for me to do it, rather than running it through a food mill or doing batches in my blender. This was the best option for sure. And if you're wondering what that yellow liquid in a jar is on my counter, that is my electrolyte drink that I drink every single day. It makes me feel great, and I know I'm replenishing my electrolytes. I did a whole video on that. I have a blog post on my website about that, so I'll link that video here and the blog post down below if you're interested. So my applesauce is blended, it's still warm, so now that the jars are sterilized, I'm taking them out, pouring out the water, and then as quickly as I can, I will fill up these jars. I just recently got a canning funnel, and I wish I had gotten one so many years ago because it's useful for so many things if you use mason jars a lot in your kitchen, not just for canning. I'll link the one I got down below. So I'm aiming to leave about an inch of headspace and filling these all up. Then I'll wipe the rims, make sure there's no applesauce or water on them, and then tighten my lids on with the rings and get these in the canner. I didn't quite have enough sterilized jars, so I just scooped the rest into one more jar and stuck that in the freezer. Then I scraped out a little taste for my 4-year-old. I promise this isn't that much later, but we turned on the kitchen lights so it looks like it's a lot darker outside. But the applesauce is done canning, so now I'm just taking it out, putting it on my towel that I had prepared earlier on the other counter, and we'll just let those sit there undisturbed until they make that glorious popping sound to let us know that they have sealed. The next day I labeled them all with the year and checked that they were all sealed, and thankfully they all had. I decided not to write unsweetened applesauce on all of these because I do so little canning that I can quite easily tell what's what. And I know that in the future when I do more, I will need to label more, and I will, but for now, I know this is all unsweetened applesauce. I'm putting a couple jars in our pantry area off the kitchen, and the rest I'm putting in this box, and I will take them downstairs for our longer term food storage later. I wanted to add a couple of things to a jar that I planned to gift to my grandma, who the apples came from, for Christmas. So I decided on getting out some twine, a cinnamon stick, a little piece of faux greenery, I've got quite a few of those, and just tie it all together around the jar. Now it's time to check on those dried orange slices and get them out so they are ready for decorating even more. A couple years ago, I got a set of dark green colored little wire hooks just from the grocery store at Christmas time, and we just poke those through part of the flesh of the orange and we can easily hang them. They're so beautiful and they smell like orange candy. I love it. Thanks so much for watching. I make a new video every week on our homesteading and homemaking endeavors here in our cabin off the grid, so I'd love if you'd subscribe and stick around. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.